what is going on. We're riffing out today. Hope you guys are all having a fantastic day. If you would, get your guitars. Let's go. We got this thing. So I was like, we haven't done a beginner lesson in a while. I thought, how about 5 things beginners kind of do whenever they're soloing, mistakes they make when they're soloing. And I wish that someone had pointed out to me, because I sure made them. And we're just going to dive on into this one. If you want to, quick reminder, we are giving away one of those Rev G20 amps. You can enter the giveaway down below. Super easy. You just got to subscribe and leave a comment like the video tells you. And you're entered in. That's going to be going on Friday. So let's go ahead and jump into this lesson. All right, so number 1 is what I like to call run-on sentences. This is just something that, as a beginner, you haven't really built this vocabulary of knowledge of the fretboard or how to play it and all these different styles and players yet. So we tend to get what are called run-on sentences. And what I mean is when you're starting out, you initially might learn maybe box 1 of your pentatonic scale. So you don't have a lot of the roadmap figured out yet. And so a lot of times beginners just don't take breaths in their playing. Think about it, I can't remember who said it, maybe it was Joe Satriani, but he's basically saying, think about when you're speaking to someone. You don't just talk with no breaks, you gotta breathe. So if you find yourself playing like this, I'll give you an example of a run-on sentence. Say we have a riff. Okay, there's our rhythm, and then you go. It's a lot. It's kind of like overstimulating for our ears. There's no breaks in the notes. It's very continuous. That's not really what you want. So, you want to be able to take a breath. Try to play small phrases at first. Get used to playing licks and phrases to really build up your vocabulary. So what I mean by that is, like, if you have this riff again. Here I messed up a little bit there, but you could hear how there was moments where I didn't play anything. I let the space kind of take over. Sometimes the best note you can play, no note. So there's the first one. Try to really notice that if you're not taking breaks, avoid those run-on sentences. Put a period on that, in that sentence every once in a while. Number 2, overthinking. I feel like this one leads to the run-on sentences, because what happens is, as a beginner, you are really honed in. There's a lot going on in your mind. You're wondering, if you're learning a scale or something like that, what note to play? Am I going to play it right? What do I play after that note? You're trying to think, down the line a little bit sometimes. What's happening in music? There's so many things spinning around in your head that we can end up overthinking it. And then you end up not really playing anything. And what I mean is, so you want to get to where you have at least one section of the neck, pattern, scale, whatever it is that you learn. Maybe you do the cage system or something. And you want to have one area where you just know front to back. And what happens is whenever you know this area, like box 1 pentatonic for me. So you have this scale, and I can play that scale without even thinking about it. My hands just know what that is at this point. But what you want to do is, once you get to that point where you just know how to play the stuff, you eliminate one of those big pillars of trying to focus. And what I mean is I'm not focused on, am I playing the right notes of the scale? I know the scale. So as a beginner, kind of put in that grunt work and just sit there and get to where you know that pattern inside and out. Okay, now that was sloppy there at the end. But that's just going straight through the scale. Do it opposite. See how I flipped it all backward? Okay, so sit there and play the scale in as many ways as you can think about, because what happens is then playing it just becomes natural, and you find yourself in other, maybe you come up with these patterns on the fly. Oh, I keep putting the wrong volume down. Okay, that's a cool little. Okay. Well, I might not have thought of something like that. So, don't overthink it. Get to where you just, learn one part really, really well before you move on to the next one. Number 3, you're locked into a phrase. Now, this kind of goes back to you just haven't built your vocabulary on the fingerboard. But that doesn't mean that you can't start working on this stuff early on, because what I see a lot of people do is they have, they learn a lick or they have a phrase and they repeat it too much, guys like SRV and all these amazing players kind of had these phrases and they would repeat it. Maybe move up an octave. Joe Satriani does this all the time. And then they kind of leave it at that. But a lot of times when you're starting out, you repeat the same thing too many times. And what I mean, like, say that you had a lick, whatever the lick is, it's that's your lick. That little phrase right there. See, if you just keep going like that, you're kind of like, you're taking it too far. You have to work on adding some variance to how you're phrasing things. So maybe... I'm still taking the groundwork that I had there. Hear how, like, almost if you play it too much of a good thing, it's kind of one of those situations. Like, it sounds great, but don't do it too much. Don't be afraid to take a phrase that you really, really like, sit there, and then try to tweak it a little bit. See, I just changed you one note. Little things like that add to your repertoire, and part of it is you just have to get used to thinking. Thinking. And I'm not saying that we're not thinking as guitar players, but this creative thinking. Don't just lock into a phrase. That's how you get stuck in ruts and all that kind of stuff. Take all your favorite little phrases, little licks, all that stuff, and sit there and start tweaking on them. Because then that's where you start coming up with a different one. So maybe you're like, okay, so I did it twice. Let's not do it too much now. So I'm gonna go again, I'm putting a period on that sentence. I'm not just gonna keep going. Now this one's definitely directed more towards very beginners, and this is just, I think it's more of an ear development thing, but it helps to point this stuff out early on. I would have students, I remember when I was, back when I was teaching guitar, they would come in and they wouldn't want to tune their guitar all the time. I'd be like, oh, your guitar's out of tune, because, I can handle a guitar that's a little bit out of tune, it's a little bit rock and roll sometimes, but when it gets like, there's this point where it crosses the line, I'm like, oh, you have to tune your guitar. I can't stand to hear that guitar out of tune. And they're like, oh, I can't even hear it's out of tune. I'm like, and that's why you have to do it. So the same with fretting a note. A lot of times beginners push down on the notes either too hard and it makes a note go sharp. Listen to this note. I'm sure my guitar's probably not perfectly intonated, so someone with perfect pitch is probably like, that's not in tune. But if you push too hard, hear how I didn't move my finger up or down really, I just pushed too hard. So you don't have to death grip the guitar, but sometimes beginners actually push the strings down whenever they're fretting. They pull, and a lot of the time it's because they're treating the neck more like a baseball bat style where they're like gripping it like this. And you really want to have your thumb back here and just treat it like, here's your fingerboard. You're just trying to like go at the string perfectly straight on. You don't need to pull, because until you get better control over your bends, and where maybe you like those little, kind of country micro bend. Oh, hold on. There's the little bends like that. That takes a lot of control and a lot of time to develop that kind of stuff. So just make sure that you are sitting there and you're playing your note. The pitch should not drift unless you are purposely trying to do that. But as a beginner, make sure that pitch is staying right on point. Nothing's worse than going like this. Listen to the lick. In tune, out of tune. Hear how the one was kind of like, and the other one was like, all right, that's your standard dad rock blues lick. And there you have it. And the final one, and again, this just kind of ties back into the, you've got a million things running around in your head. Also, it is a million degrees in here. It's so hot. What I'm talking about here is listening to what's happening in the rhythm. Because sometimes, how I was saying, like, don't have those run-on sentences. Don't have that lick that you repeat, 5 times too many. Well, the background can really dictate so much of what you're doing. And sometimes you can kind of like basically steal a lick from what's happening in the background. So like if I go like this, like I'm trying to come up with something off the top of my head. If I go, bow 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 bow, bow bow down down down. So you can sit there and go like, you know, I was kind of taking that original idea, but I was just going. I'm really not doing anything fancy. I'm just paying attention to what the background would be doing, and I'm just kind of like stealing it, kind of like a Neil Schon solo or something. You know how he kind of takes a lot of the vocal melodies. I'm basically doing that, and I'm just adding it to the solos. So try that stuff. I'm telling you, these little tweaks make such huge differences. Guitar is not one big thing. Guitar is a million little things. And that's going to be it, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Hey, if you're a beginner, stick with it. Guitar is hands down one of the coolest instruments ever. You're setting your life on a journey that you're going to love, because if once you get past that beginner phase, it's so much fun. I can't even stress it enough. Other than that, I'm going to bounce out of here. I'm actually going to play you guys some rhythm. If you're still hanging out with me, leave a comment down below. Hashtag gold top and roll. Yeah, let's do that one. See who made it here to the end. And I'm going to play you guys some rhythm. I haven't done this in a while. I'll play some rhythm. If you are a beginner or just anyone who wants to, play that A minor pentatonic scale and sit there and try some of these things that I've been talking about. Oh, and don't forget to enter that Rev giveaway. So, other than that, guys, have a good rest of your day. All right, here's some rock and roll rhythm for you.